said he was kissing, man. No, I said, that sounds gay, don't it? I said, it's more than your body, baby, damn, it's your brain. You make me wanna kiss you like baby kiss Wayne. You make you call me daddy like baby to Wayne. Damn, that sounds gay, it's insane.
Know that they had a father-son relationship, and that could easily be something that they communicate between the two of them.
50 Cent has done it again, and this time he didn't just open a door, he kicked it off the hinges, set the building on fire, and stood outside filming it for Instagram. For years, decades, there have been whispers about Brian Birdman Williams. Whispers that never quite became shouts. Whispers that circulated through the darkest corners of the music industry, through backroom conversations, through late-night discussions between artists who knew better than to say certain things on the record. Whispers about what really happens to young artists who enter Birdman's orbit. Whispers about the price of a Cash Money deal. Whispers about why so many talented young men walked into that system full of potential and walked out broken, bankrupt, or silent. The whispers have been there for 30 years, and for 30 years, nobody with enough power, enough platform, and enough fearlessness was willing to turn those whispers into words. Until now, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, the man who exposed Diddy before the indictments, the man who warned us about Pooh Shiesty before the world understood, the man who has been the unofficial whistleblower of hip-hop for the better part of 2 decades, has gone public with accusations against Birdman that are so explosive, so specific, and so deeply disturbing that the entire music industry is holding its breath. And at the center of these accusations is a name that keeps appearing in every dark chapter of this story: NBA Youngboy. The young man from Baton Rouge who signed with Birdman's label. The young man whose output defied human capability. The young man who 50 Cent once said works like there's 2 of him. The young man who, according to what 50 is now alleging, wasn't just signed to a record deal, he was sold. It started, as it always does with 50, on Instagram. But this wasn't a meme. This wasn't a troll post. This wasn't 50 being petty or funny or provocative for the sake of engagement. This was something different.
And everyone who follows 50 recognized it immediately. The post was a photograph of Birdman and NBA Youngboy together. A photo that had been publicly available for years. Nothing unusual about the image itself. 2 men in the music industry, label boss and artist. Standard promotional material, but the caption is what detonated the internet. 50 wrote, and I'm paraphrasing because the original post has since been removed, but it was screenshotted thousands of times before it disappeared. He wrote something to the effect of, "This man has been doing the same thing for 30 years. Different kids, same playbook. Somebody needs to ask YB what the real price of that deal was. And I don't mean money. I don't mean money." 4 words. 4 words that took a photograph of 2 men standing next to each other and turned it into an accusation that the entire hip-hop world understood instantly. 4 words that referenced, without explicitly stating, the darkest allegation you can make about a man in a position of power over a young artist. The post was up for 22 minutes. Screenshots were taken within seconds. By the time 50 deleted it, every hip-hop blog in the country had already published it, and the conversation that the industry had been avoiding for 3 decades was suddenly unavoidable. To understand what 50 is alleging, you have to understand the history, and the history of Cash Money Records is one of the most complicated, most controversial, and most scrutinized stories in the history of American music.
That's like, Cash Money really like the worst label in history, right? Because they got the richest and they became the brokest. I swear to God, my mama, like, they all had it. And now they all up old and up and broke, can't pass it on. I swear to God, mama, so shout out to them. The Illuminati took it all from them. That's what you don't know. They let you keep it until you get old. Because when you get old, you can't pass it on. I swear to God, mama. That's how you know they sold gone. That's how you know they sold it. That's how you know.
Birdman, Brian Williams, and his brother Slim founded Cash Money Records in New Orleans in 1991. Over the next 3 decades, the label would sign and develop some of the most important artists in hip-hop history. Lil Wayne, Juvenile, BG Hot Boys, Drake, Nicki Minaj. The list of talent that has passed through Cash Money's doors is staggering.
What's the year that Cash Money started?
I came home from jail in 1989, December 10th. I started my label, got my federal tax ID number February 10th. I signed with Universal 1997, May 10th.
And still Universal's a partner?
I've been there 23 years. Same team.
Have you been getting money for 23 years from Universal? Them checks must be looking crazy.
Just to keep it G with you, bro, I done made $2 billion with Universal.
With Universal?
Yeah. $1 billion of the dollars I broke down with Wayne, Drake, and Nicki.
And now is Drake still signed to Cash Money? Are they all three still technically signed?
We're in business together for life.
Okay.
It's a long time.
When you cutting checks like that, ain't no nigga going nowhere.
All right.
Money long, nigga strong.
But alongside that legacy of hit-making sits another legacy, a legacy of financial exploitation that has been documented extensively and litigated repeatedly. Artist after artist has come forward, publicly, legally, on the record, to describe business practices at Cash Money that ranged from unfair to predatory. Lil Wayne's legal battle with Cash Money is one of the most well-documented disputes in hip-hop history.
Did they make any mistakes back then?
Talking about my artists?
Talking about Baby.
Talking about Baby and Slim. Well, now, if you were Lil Wayne's manager, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you were Lil, did you see any missteps now that you look back?
You know what I be telling my dude? I be like, man, now that I'm in charge and the things I'm in charge of, I kind of look at it like it was impossible to do what they did for just two guys. You know what I mean? Like, man, I deal with, I be about to bite somebody's head off behind a hotel room.
He spent years trying to extricate himself from a deal that he said was suffocating his career and his finances.
Yeah, never really got paid anything.
What do you mean never got paid?
Never got paid. He got paid like with cars and goddamn a few dollars after the tour.
Where was he at in his career? Like
he was early. It still was early. But it's still two platinum albums out.
No, this is 2 platinum albums, and I'm not getting paid.
He had 2 platinum albums out before he was 17.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Before he was 18.
I literally was brought in to get him a lawyer, get him a business manager. So I had to figure all that out without knowing nothing about the business.
The specifics of that dispute filled courtrooms and dominated headlines for the better part of a decade.
Not only did Cash Money refuse to pay him $2 million for completing the album, they've only paid from 2 of the initial $8 million they owed him. In other words, Cash Money owes Wayne $8 million for the Carter 5 alone. But this case goes beyond Wayne's solo career. There's also Wayne's imprint, Young Money. In February 2003, Cash Money agreed to launch Young Money, with Wayne owning 49% and Cash Money owning 51%. In what might be the most devious allegation against Cash Money in this lawsuit, Wayne claims Cash Money didn't actually split the copyright. Instead, they registered the copyright for Young Money only under Cash Money, cutting Wayne out completely.
BG, Christopher Dorsey, signed to Cash Money as a teenager. His career arc followed a pattern that would become tragically familiar. Early success, financial disputes, legal troubles, incarceration. He has spoken publicly about feeling exploited by the label system.
Oh, shit, nigga, baby, he's a dog. You hear me? Every dog had his dick, you know what I'm saying? What goes around comes around, you know what I'm saying? It's selfish, nigga, all for self. He went to blaming my drug addiction on, you know what I'm saying, talking about it was me when we was on our Cash Money Rough Riders tour. You know what I'm saying? We was gone like 60 days. And, you know what I'm saying, he was collecting like 165 G's a night cash. And he give me a check for 300 G's. But I read in the paper, the fucking tour and gross 14 million.
Juvenile had his own well-publicized falling out with Cash Money over royalties and creative control. Turk served prison time and has spoken about the label's role in his trajectory.
You know what was weird to me when I got the Cash Money? It was the weirdest thing. So I know they had all these artists on the label.
Right.
So I get to the label and then all of a sudden, they let all the artists go, all the other artists go.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start telling me, you know, it's gonna be you and Wayne and BG. So I'm like, you talking about the little kid, the little boy? Like, dude, I'm grown. Like, for real? Like, yeah, it's gonna be you, Wayne, and my nephew. Now I ain't really knew who Derek was. It was like, and my nephew and BG. Yeah, it's gonna be y'all. Y'all gonna be the whole new. I'm like, you like UNLV? UNLV was like the shit.
Right.
More.
Yeah.
Like, damn, you like UNLV? Miss T? Like, you know, I was in shock. I'm like that's a lot of pressure to drop on my head all of a sudden.
Right.
But
And are you a solo artist
was
then?
right.
Or when he said, I'm
Manny
putting
was
y'all
saying
together?
the same thing too, that they was right. They knew something I didn't know.
The pattern is consistent. Young artists, often from impoverished backgrounds, often with limited education, often with no legal representation of their own, are signed to deals that benefit the label disproportionately. They're given advances that function as debt. They're denied transparency into their own finances. And when they push back, they're either frozen out or buried in legal proceedings that they can't afford to fight. That pattern alone is damning. But what 50 Cent is alleging goes far, far beyond financial exploitation. The Instagram post was the opening shot. What followed was a carefully orchestrated rollout of information that demonstrates exactly why 50 Cent is the most effective communicator in hip-hop. Within 48 hours of the deleted Instagram post, 50 appeared on 3 separate platforms: a podcast, a radio interview, and a film sit-down with a journalist, and delivered a consistent, escalating message that built from implication to allegation to accusation. On the podcast, which was the first appearance, 50 was measured. He talked about Birdman in general terms. He talked about the cash money business model. He talked about the pattern of young artists being signed and exploited. He didn't mention NBA Youngboy by name. He let the audience connect the dots. On the radio interview, which aired the following morning, 50 escalated. He talked about certain label bosses who don't just take artists' money, who take something else, something that the artists can't get back. He used the phrase access repeatedly. These men don't just want your publishing, they want access. Access to you, access to your time, access to your body. And if you want the deal, if you want the career, if you want the life, you give them access, or you get nothing. And then the sit-down interview, the big one, the one where 50 dropped the full accusation. And what he said was this, and I'm compressing a 15-minute statement into its essential elements. 50 said that he has spoken with multiple individuals, former Cash Money artists, former employees, associates, and people connected to Birdman's personal life, who have described a pattern of behavior that goes back decades. A pattern in which young male artists, typically between the ages of 15 and 20, are brought into Birdman's circle under the guise of mentorship. They're given money, they're given attention, they're given the promise of a career. And then, gradually, the relationship shifts. The mentorship becomes something else. The access that Birdman provides comes with expectations. Expectations that are not in any contract. Expectations that are communicated not through legal language, but through pressure, through isolation, through the slow erosion of boundaries. 50 said that NBA Youngboy, who was signed to a deal with Birdman's Never Broke Again imprint, entered this system at a young age, and that what happened to Youngboy during his time under Birdman's influence is the reason that kid makes music like he's running from something, because he is. He's been running since he was a teenager, and the thing he's running from has a name. 50 paused, looked at the interviewer, and said, the thing he's running from is Brian Williams. To understand how Youngboy ended up in Birdman's orbit, you need to understand Baton Rouge, because Baton Rouge and New Orleans are not just geographically close, they're culturally intertwined. The music scenes overlap, the street networks overlap, the industry pipelines overlap. NBA Youngboy, born Kentrell Deshaun Galden, grew up in Baton Rouge in circumstances that can only be described as brutal: poverty, violence, instability. By the time he was a teenager, he had already experienced more trauma than most people encounter in a lifetime.
I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My first job was cutting grass around the neighborhood. I always wanted to rap since I was younger. That was my dream job, and it came true. I started making music when I was 7 years old. My mom used to rap, so she inspired me to do it. The first song I wrote was For a Reason. I don't know how long ago that was, but I remember that was the name, For a Reason. I don't like to gamble, but I like shooting dice. It's just like an everyday life though, because you gambling, you rolling the dice. If I can go anywhere in the world, I will go to Fiji, because it's something that I never seen. I lived in Northside Baton Rouge. That ain't Chippewa Street, the slums, the heart will be all it. It ain't nothing different. Yeah, I want to learn how to sing. I got the rapping down pat, so I feel like if I knew how to sing, like, you couldn't stop me for real then. What motivates me is my 4 sons. If a genie granted me a wish, I wish for wealth. I got a lot of money, but when you wealthy, that means that your children is balling. Well, at first, shit, my grandma used to take care of me. And when my grandma died, I kind of, started, I got other shit started catching my attention at a younger age. See, I got booked for robbery at my age 14. I did like 6 months in Tallulah. That's at their home, like for, I guess, bad kid. I ain't no bad kid though. It's not crazy shit.
He started making music as an outlet, and he was extraordinarily talented, prodigiously talented, the kind of talented that makes industry people take notice immediately. And when industry people in Louisiana take notice of a young artist, there is one name that inevitably enters the conversation. One man whose network controls the pipeline from Baton Rouge and New Orleans to the national stage, Birdman. 50 describes the recruitment process, based on what he says he's been told by people who witnessed it, as deliberate and systematic. Birdman doesn't just sign artists, he acquires them. He identifies young talent in the earliest stages, before they have management, before they have legal counsel, before they have anyone in their corner who can read a contract or ask difficult questions. And then he fills every role: manager, mentor, father figure, big brother, financial provider, the man who buys you your first chain, the man who gives you your first real money, the man who puts you in the studio with real producers, the man who makes the calls that turn a SoundCloud kid from Baton Rouge into a national phenomenon. 50 says this is intentional, that by filling every role in the young artist's life, Birdman creates a dependency that is almost impossible to break. The artist doesn't just need Birdman for business, they need him for identity, for validation, for survival. And once that dependency is established, once the artist literally cannot imagine their life without Birdman's involvement, the dynamic shifts. That's when the other thing starts, 50 said. When the kid is so deep in the system that leaving feels impossible, when the money is flowing and the music is working and the lifestyle is intoxicating, that's when the price gets collected. And by the time the kid realizes what's happening, he's already in too deep to talk about it. 50 Cent drew an explicit connection between what he's alleging about Birdman and Youngboy and what was alleged about Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty. And that connection is the thread that ties this entire saga together. 50 said, look at the pattern, really look at it. Young artists from the streets, signed by an older, powerful man, given a platform, built up to a certain level, and then used, exploited, violated. And when the young artist finds out, when he understands what was really happening, he reacts. He reacts with violence, with rage, with the only tools he was ever given. He continued, Shiesty found out and tried to kill his way out. Youngboy found out and tried to record his way out. Different methods, same cause, same machine, same system that takes young black men who should be protected and instead feeds them to people who see them as commodities. 50 says the music industry's response to both situations has been identical. Protect the powerful, punish the victim, control the narrative, make the young artist look crazy, look dangerous, look criminal, so that when the truth finally comes out, nobody believes them. Because who's going to believe a convicted felon over a music mogul? Who's going to believe a teenager from Baton Rouge over a man who's been in the industry for 30 years? That's the genius of the system, 50 said. It doesn't just exploit these kids, it preemptively discredits them. By the time they're in a position to tell the truth, they've already been convicted, already been labeled, already been turned into a cautionary tale. And the man who did it to them is still sitting behind a desk, signing the next one. 50 made a point during his sit-down interview that has since been picked up by analysts, commentators, and fans who have gone back and listened to NBA Youngboy's discography with new ears. He said, listen to the music, stop dancing to it and listen to it. That boy has been telling you what happened to him in every song he's ever recorded. You just weren't paying attention. And when you go back, when you actually sit with Youngboy's lyrics, not as background music, but as testimony, the patterns that 50 is pointing to become hauntingly visible. The constant references to betrayal by people he trusted, the recurring themes of being used, the visceral, almost desperate quality of his delivery, as if every bar is being rapped by someone trying to outrun something. The references to experiences that don't fit neatly into the standard street narrative. Moments of vulnerability that surface and then disappear, as if the artist caught himself saying too much and pulled back. And the volume, the sheer, inhuman volume of output. Dozens of projects in a few years. Hundreds of songs. An avalanche of music that, when viewed through the lens of 50's allegations, looks less like extraordinary productivity and more like someone trying to drown something out, trying to bury something under layers and layers of sound, trying to say the thing he can't say directly by saying everything else as loudly and as constantly as possible. 50 said, you know how some people drink to forget, some people fight to forget. That boy records to forget. He gets in the booth and he pours it out because it's the only place he
he can. And nobody noticed because we were too busy counting the streams. That reframe, Youngboy's music as a survival mechanism rather than a creative strategy, has fundamentally changed how a significant portion of the audience is engaging with his catalog. Songs that were once consumed as bangers are being re-listened to as confessions. Lyrics that were interpreted as generic street talk are being reconsidered as specific references to specific experiences. Whether that reinterpretation is accurate or projected, whether Youngboy's music really contains coded references to the exploitation 50 describes, is something only Youngboy himself can confirm. But the conversation has been opened, and once a conversation like this is opened, it cannot be closed. Birdman's camp responded, and the response tells you everything you need to know. Within 24 hours of 50's sit-down interview airing, Birdman's legal team issued a statement. Not Birdman himself, his legal team. And the statement was crafted with the precision of people who are very, very worried. The statement called 50's allegations categorically false, defamatory, and designed to generate publicity for Mr. Jackson's entertainment ventures. It stated that Birdman has never engaged in any inappropriate conduct with any artist, male or female, under any circumstances, and it concluded with a threat, a promise really, that legal action will be pursued to the fullest extent against any individual or entity that continues to publish these baseless accusations. Standard denial, standard legal threat, the kind of statement that gets issued by publicists and attorneys when their client is in crisis mode and the priority is stopping the bleeding as quickly as possible. But what was missing from the statement is more revealing than what was in it. There was no personal denial from Birdman, no video, no Instagram post, no look me in the eye and hear me say this isn't true moment. Just lawyers and press releases. For a man who has built a career on being larger than life, who has a persona built on bravado and visibility, the decision to hide behind attorneys speaks volumes. There was no mention of NBA Youngboy. The statement denied inappropriate conduct with any artist in general terms, but it didn't specifically address the Youngboy allegations. It didn't say, my relationship with NBA Youngboy was purely professional. It didn't say, I mentored that young man and never crossed a line. The omission of Youngboy's name in a statement responding to allegations specifically about Youngboy is the kind of thing that keeps lawyers up at night, and there was no threat against 50 Cent by name. The statement threatened any individual or entity, but it didn't say, we will sue Curtis Jackson, and 50 noticed. Because within an hour of the statement being released, 50 posted a screenshot of it on Instagram with a caption that said simply, sue me then. That post has not been deleted, and as of right now, no lawsuit has been filed. 50's allegations didn't exist in a vacuum, and the person whose history lends the most weight to what 50 is saying is someone who hasn't spoken about any of this publicly. Lil Wayne. Wayne was signed to Cash Money as a child, literally a child. He was 11 years old when he began his association with Birdman. 11. He grew up under Birdman's wing. He called Birdman his father. He got matching tattoos with Birdman. Their relationship was presented to the world as one of the closest bonds in hip-hop history. A surrogate father-son dynamic that seemed genuine, seemed healthy, seemed like one of the industry's rare positive stories.
I ain't never took from no nigga. I always bless niggas.
But why niggas keep saying that shit though? You know what I'm saying? Why niggas keep saying that shit, bro? Like everybody, producer, all these folks be like, man, nigga don't pay, bro.
Wait, bro. I had some incidents early on.
Yeah.
Because I was really young in this shit. I ain't know no better. But every problem I had, I cleared it up.
Oh, you saying any nigga that ever fucked like they got fucked
I
over?
cleared it up.
Yeah.
I paid any nigga that got, you hear me? Because I was young, but remember, I'm telling you, I'm 20 years old.
Yeah.
So a lot of shit happened early on. I just ain't know. But any nigga that had any problem from my son on down, and I gave him 50 million, I cleared it up, brother. Because I ain't want my name like that, especially with Wayne. That's like I'm nothing without this dude. Like that I didn't want, but it happened. But I aired that shit out. Yeah.
And then it fell apart, publicly, brutally, and irreversibly. Wayne's legal battle with Cash Money was framed as a business dispute, and it was, on the surface. Unpaid royalties, withheld albums, contractual restrictions that prevented Wayne from releasing music. Standard music industry exploitation, magnified by the scale of Wayne's talent and the value of his catalog. But 50, and he was careful about how he said this, suggested that the business dispute was the visible layer of something deeper. He said, ask yourself why Wayne calls him daddy one day and then wants to destroy him the next. Ask yourself what changes a relationship that deep, that fast, that permanently. Business disputes get resolved. People negotiate, they settle, they move on. Wayne didn't move on. Wayne burned it down. And when a son burns down his father's house, the reason is usually something that can't be fixed with a check. 50 did not explicitly accuse Birdman of abusing Lil Wayne. He did not make that allegation directly, but the implication, the carefully constructed, legally cautious, deliberately suggestive implication, was understood by everyone who heard it, and Wayne's silence on the matter is deafening. Wayne has not commented on 50's allegations. Wayne has not defended Birdman. Wayne has not dismissed the claims. Wayne has said nothing. Wayne says nothing about very few things.
Wayne has opinions on everything. Wayne addresses everything except this. And that silence, from a man who spent his entire adolescence in Birdman's care, is the most damning response possible, because denial would end the conversation, and Wayne is choosing not to end it. 50 Cent concluded his series of appearances with a statement that went beyond Birdman, beyond Youngboy, beyond any individual accusation, a statement about the industry itself. He said, I've been in this business for over 20 years, and in those 20 years, I've learned that the things everybody knows are the things nobody talks about. Everybody in the industry knows which executives prey on artists. Everybody knows which managers exploit their clients. Everybody knows which label bosses use their power to do things that would put them in prison if they weren't protected by money and lawyers and silence. He continued, we created a culture where we celebrate the music and ignore how it's made. We celebrate the product and ignore what happens to the people who make it, and we've been doing it for so long that it feels normal. It feels like that's just how the industry works. Somebody gets signed, somebody gets exploited, somebody gets destroyed, and we move on to the next one. 50 then drew a direct line from Birdman to the broader pattern that has defined this entire story arc, the pattern that connects Cash Money to 1017 to whatever label comes next, a pattern of predation masquerading as mentorship, a pattern of exploitation disguised as opportunity, a pattern that targets the most vulnerable, young, poor, desperate artists from violent communities, because they are the least likely to have the resources, the knowledge, or the support systems to fight back. Birdman didn't invent this, 50 said. He inherited it, the same way Gucci inherited it, the same way the next one will inherit it, unless we stop it. Unless we look at this system and say, this is what it really is, not a business, a predator disguised as a business. And until we say that, until we name it, nothing changes. The names change, the labels change, the cities change, but the machine keeps running, and the kids keep getting fed into it. And then came the announcement that everyone was expecting, but nobody was ready for. 50 Cent confirmed that G-Unit Film and Television is in production on a documentary series. Not about Pooh Shiesty specifically, not about Gucci Mane, not about Birdman, about all of it. The entire system, from Cash Money to 1017 to the hidden architecture that connects every label, every executive, and every exploited artist across 3 decades of hip-hop. The working title, and 50 shared this on Instagram with no caption, just the title card, is The Machine. According to 50, the project will feature interviews with former artists, former employees, former associates, and former victims of the system. People who have never spoken publicly. People who signed NDAs that they're now willing to challenge. People who have spent years in therapy processing experiences that the industry told them never happened. 50 said the project has been in development for over a year, long before the Shiesty saga began, long before the Gucci revelations, long before Katt Williams' recording. The current events, he said, have accelerated the timeline because the public is now ready to hear what he's been trying to say for years. The Diddy documentary was the appetizer, 50 said. This is the main course. And by the time it's done, every person in this industry who has used their power to exploit young artists is going to have to answer for it. Not to me, not to a blogger, not to Instagram, to the world, on camera, on the record, permanently. The streaming platform has not been announced. The release date has not been confirmed, but the message has been sent. And the industry, every corner of it, every executive, every label boss, every manager who has operated in the shadows is now on notice. 50 Cent is coming, and he's bringing cameras. From Diddy to Gucci to Birdman, from Pooh Shiesty to NBA Youngboy to Lil Wayne, from a confrontation at a nightclub to an international manhunt to allegations that span 3 decades and implicate some of the most powerful men in American entertainment. This is not a
series of isolated incidents. This is a system that 50 Cent has been trying to expose for years, a system that Katt has been warning about for decades, a system that chews up young black men and spits them out as content. Their pain turned into streams, their trauma turned into profit, their destruction turned into somebody else's success. Pooh Shiesty refused to be destroyed quietly. NBA Youngboy has been screaming about it in every song he's ever made. And now 50 Cent is pointing the camera at the people who built the machine and asking the question that nobody in the industry wants to answer. How long has this been happening? How many young men have been through this? And how many more will be fed into the machine before someone finally turns it off? The answers are coming, whether the industry is ready for them or not.